Would you believe me if I told you that a car show that happens every year that holds potentially the most heavily modified cars in America, but you couldn't go? I'm KJ, and today's this story. SEMA is a trade association that contains a diverse group of manufacturers and distributors that create automotive parts. The company's name stands for Specialty Equipment Market Association. In a nutshell, that pretty much means everything that has to do with the aftermarket part industry. SEMA was founded by a man named Paul Schaefer, who used to make flywheels and clutches for modified cars in the 1950s. Later in his life, Paul was also one of the people who formed the SEMA company and some of its earliest creations. In 1969, Schaefer was the first recipient of the SEMA Hall of Fame award due to him creating the Schaefer Manufacturing Company. Okay, now that we talked about how SEMA was formed, let's talk about some popular companies that SEMA sponsors. The first one we'll go over is a brand called HKS. HKS is a brand that makes engineering, manufacturing, tuning, and sales of high-performance accessory automotive parts and accessories. Most people know about HKS from making turbochargers for JDM cars, specifically Nissan Skylines, from the R32s to the R34s. In fact, HKS is the turbocharger company responsible for making the HKS T51R, which is the same turbocharger used in the Too Fast, Too Furious Nissan Skyline. Something else that HKS is known for is being a massive sponsor in the motorsport industry, such as the Japan Grand Touring Championship and the Drift 1 Grand Prix. Another brand that SEMA sponsors is called Toyo Tires. Toyo Tires is a company that has been making tires for cars ever since August 1945. In 1966, Toyo Tires reached popularity in the United States, which is then when Needle Tire North America was made as an expansion. In the 2010 era, Toyo sponsored many trophy truck drivers like Ryan Turok, I probably butchered that, Bryce Menzies, and stunt driver Ken Block. Now that we've gone over some brands that SEMA sponsors, let's talk about how aftermarket companies show off their product at the show. And believe it or not, it's relatively simple. They just buy a spot at the SEMA show, put up some steel dividers to make a personal section for their product, then they put up some of the items they sell on a stand, and then put a heavily modified car that uses the part on the opposite side of the section, and it'll come up to look something like this. Also, as I said in the intro, some of the most heavily modified cars in America come to SEMA to show off what they've done. Let's go over what I think are the best builds from the last 3 years. Starting from the first build from 2021, we have Brandon Miller's Safari Gold Datsun 300ZX Z31. This car's original 2-liter RB20 DET engine was swapped with a naturally aspirated RB25 DET. The rear subframe has been swapped out with one from a Nissan Silvia S14, while the front suspension was tuned by a company named Techno Toy Tuning. Miller's Z31 was so popular that it managed to get a feature in Pass Mag's Top 5 SEMA builds. My personal favorite car from SEMA 2022 is Dai Yoshihara's Nissan Skyline R33. Dai Yoshihara is a 2011 Formula Drift champion and the winner of the 2020 Pikes Peak Hill Climb Unlimited class. In August 2022, Yoshihara imported a Nissan Skyline R33 to America by top-ranked importers, and after 3 months of upgrades and tuning, it found itself a spot at SEMA. The R33 has a Greddy turbo, inlet manifold, StopTech brakes, and Greddy's crate engine. After all these upgrades are put together, the R33 generates a whopping 700 horsepower. However, before I begin with the next car, I just want to point out that another reason why I like this car is because a 1/64 scale diecast company named Mini GT recreated Dai's R33. So it is technically possible to own a replica of this car. Now for the best car build of SEMA 2023. After looking up many different cars that attended SEMA last year, there were many cars that would have made the number 1 spot for this video, but there's one car that blows them all away by a long shot. That car is TJ Hunt's custom BMW M4 GT3. This entire car is insane. It started out as a normal M4 G82, However, TJ took it up a notch and did something to it that no one else has done before. What did he do, you ask? Well, he made it into a full-on street-legal race car conversion. This M4 has a Bommies mid-pipe, which basically makes the car louder, carbon fiber intakes, sits on 18-inch HRE 520 rims, and generates about 503 horsepower. Now, I've gone over what I think are the best SEMA builds from the last 3 years, and I'm sure some cars may have made you want to go see them in real life. But there's one massive problem. The general public is not allowed inside of SEMA. Yeah, SEMA's not open to the general public. The show is a trade-only show, which basically means that it's only attendees that work in the trade. As I said before, it's for people who work in the automotive industry or aftermarket industry. And the only way to get in is if you are one of those people who work in the industry. And by the way, you need to provide documentation that proves that you're actually in the aftermarket business. That way, SEMA doesn't just let in any random people. However, there is one way that you can get into SEMA without being in the aftermarket industry, and it's quite simple. Say hello to the SEMA Show Friday experience, which is basically tickets that allow the general public to get in, but only on Friday, specifically from 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. However, tickets are quite expensive. It's $99 per person. But to be honest with you, I think it's quite worth it. Reason being is because, again, SEMA's a private show. But the fact that they're letting normal people in, but for a hefty price, giving you the ability to see the most heavily modified cars of America come in, I think that's a good trade. If you're interested in going to SEMA through the SEMA Friday experience, then this year it's happening on November 5th through November 8th, 2024 at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Alrighty, I think I went over everything you need to know about what SEMA is and how you can get in. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on the next story.